Hello, today I want to talk to you about a problem for a lot of athletes. We want to talk about preventing gastrointestinal problems, stomach aches, feeling ill, that sort of thing. It's more common than we like to admit. So, what are some of the things that can lead to causes of gastrointestinal problems? And there can be mechanical problems, just the up and down movements of things like running or a specific position, like on a bicycle. There can be physiological issues, reduced blood flow to the intestines, particularly in heat, as blood flow goes to the skin and reduces blood flow to the gastrointestinal tract. It's going to cause damage to the intestines. There can be increased stress hormones with competition. And then there are nutritional problems, high-fat diets, high-fiber diets on competition day, too much protein in a diet, concentrated carbohydrate solutions, reducing stomach emptying times, or large volumes which an athlete has not properly trained for. So what are some of the things that can go on? You can get this leaky gut syndrome, where at rest, nutrients travel across the gastrointestinal tract into the bloodstream normally, but during exercise, either some kind of damage or heat or mechanical problems cause a leaky gut. And when that happens, there's reduced blood flow. You can get reduced nutrient delivery, reduced oxygen delivery, and overall an athlete feeling unwell. So, what can we do to prevent these gastrointestinal problems? One of the things we'd like to try with our athlete is intestinal training. So, what intestinal training is not constant high carbohydrate intake. Because if you're taking high levels of carbohydrate every single day, you're going to end up with reduced fat oxidation. You're going to increase your carbohydrate oxidation ability, but you're not going to have a balanced diet here. On the other hand, if you have a chronic low carbohydrate intakes, so you're focusing on fats in your diet, yes, you're going to increase fatty acid oxidation, but you're going to reduce your ability to oxidize carbohydrates. And we know that carbohydrates provide us with the most ATP. So this is also not a useful strategy. So what we want to do is periodize our carbohydrate intake. What do we mean by periodize our carbohydrate intake? That means we want to have some days that are high for carbohydrate intake and some days that are low for carbohydrate intake. So basically on high intensity or long duration days, once or twice a week, we want to have very high carbohydrate intakes. We want to train for race day or competition day. The rest of the week, we want to have pretty low carbohydrate intakes, particularly on easy training days, days you're not going to be stressed with your training. This is going to lead to balanced fat oxidation and balanced carbohydrate oxidation and an increased capacity to burn both carbohydrates and fats. The gut is incredibly adaptable, and this strategy is the best strategy for most athletes. So, what else can we do by training the gut? We can improve gastric emptying times by training the same strategies, the same volumes that we'll use during our competition. So if you're going to be playing a game of soccer and you're going to have 500 mils of liquid at halftime or 250 mils of liquid at halftime, you need to practice that during your training. By practicing with the carbohydrates you'll use during your competition, you can improve intestinal absorption of those carbohydrates from those solutions. You can improve the level of comfort that you have with those foods in your stomach. And ultimately, this will reduce gastrointestinal problems. Just remember, the gut is an incredibly adaptable organ. It's like any other organ in your body, like your muscles. They will adapt. It will adapt with training. But you need to train regularly to get this to work. So, preventing GI problems, what are we going to do? We're going to make training with carbohydrate during the competition phase of our training regimen a routine at least once a week, better twice a week. You're going to avoid high-fat, high-protein foods the day before your workout. You're going to avoid milk products the day before your competition. You're going to avoid fiber-rich foods the day before your competition. and you're going to train with your race or train with your competition nutrition, again, once or twice a week. You will need to avoid non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like aspirin. These often cause gastrointestinal problems, or ibuprofen that cause gastrointestinal problems. You need to avoid dehydration. This is just good advice, but dehydration will cause gastrointestinal problems during your race or during your competition. And it's a good idea to avoid high fructose foods in the day before a race for the most part, although these can be combined with glucose. Glucose plus fructose together is an okay mixture, but not fructose on its own. Now, some athletes, that might be insufficient. For some athletes, that advice may not be enough, and those athletes may benefit from a low fermentable oligosaccharides diet. So what is it? If you've tried all the avenues and your GI symptoms simply won't disappear, it may be time to try what's called a FODMAP diet. And try to determine exactly the foods that are causing your problems. You don't want to avoid unnecessary dietary restriction. Restrictive diets are unhealthy for athletes. But you do want to listen to your body, work with a registered dietitian or a medical professional, doctor, to understand what it is that is causing you to suffer from gastrointestinal problems during your workouts. I would also add that it's also time to steer clear of processed foods. Sometimes preservatives and things like that can trigger your gastrointestinal discomfort. Some athletes may benefit from this low FODMAP food alternatives. You want to swap out high fructose containing foods like apples or cherries or watermelon, especially honey, for things like blueberries or pineapple or melon, which are lower in fructose. You want to maybe swap out some of your wheat-based breads and bars for wheat-free alternatives, things like kiwi or maple syrup is a good alternative to honey. Many athletes will benefit from reducing lactose in their diet from milk, cheese, and yogurt, and replacing that with lactose-free products, perhaps some soy products. Soy yogurts or soy milks can be used alternatively. And then many athletes will benefit from eliminating things like sorbitol, sugar-free gums, things like that, and replacing that with simple sugars like brown sugar or maple syrup or a sugar alternative, stevia.